Hello everybody, James here, and I'm back home, and it is of course story time with Dutch Mantell, episode 101. So we made it to 100 episodes, Dutch. Does it seem... I mean,
it doesn't seem...
No, it doesn't. Up on us.
It doesn't seem like 100 episodes at all.
Does it seem like 300 hanging around with me this long?
No, but seriously, no. It feels like about 50 maybe. So... But we did get a lot of comments over the Gail Kim interview.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people liked her because she's a very likable person anyway.
Yeah. Ageless as well. Jesus, she's like nearly 50. She looks like she's in her 20s.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I had to ask her about marrying the chef. What's his name? Robert what?
Irvine, I think.
Robert Irvine. So... And I knew who he was when I first heard that she was going to get married to him. And that's because and what am I doing watching a shopping channel? I mean, a cooking channel. I don't know, but I'd heard his name. So, and he is really, really big in the cooking circles. Mm. So I guess they have cooking podcasts too, right?
I figure so. Cooking shows is something I just abhor. I don't like them. I never watch cooking shows because it just if nothing else, it makes me hungry. I just leave and go eat.
Well, yeah, I guess to really like a cooking show, you got to be really interested in it. I'm like you. I'm just interested in eating the food, not necessarily making it. But I do respect people that can put a meal together and make it very good. So that is a talent that you just don't get overnight. It takes a long time to get that way.
Did you ever do any cooking on the road? You know, like I've heard a couple of stories of people taking like these hot plates with them and making their own stuff. Did you ever do anything like that?
Hell no. And I've seen guys that did it, and I would say, why in the hell do you bring, I mean, they weren't with me. They was in another room or something. But I know why they did it. They brought it to save money. But how much money really can you save? You know what I mean? Now you got to, when you get ready to leave, you got to bundle it up and pack it up. And then you got to get it out when you get to the next place and set it up. And yeah, it never appealed to me. But some of those guys, I've eaten some of their cooking. It was actually very good. Mm. Great. I can't remember this guy's name that he did it in Puerto Rico. He brought the whole deal, set it up. Oh, his cooking was great. What was his name? Can't remember his name now.
It wasn't Mr. Fuji, was it?
Well, Mr. Fuji, you know. Hey, did you learn any Japanese on your trip?
I've made about 10 words.
Like what?
So, obvious ones like konnichiwa and sayonara is hello, goodbye. Okaike is bill. Chumon is can we order again? And so, like, if you want to say, can we place an order, please? You say chumon onegashimasu, which is the more polite way of saying please, onegashimasu. I can never remember the other one.
Mask. Ogasa what?
Yeah, you're wearing a gassy mask.
Oh. I can never, that's what I heard.
I can never remember the other thank you. You just keep forgetting these damn things. But obviously, biru is beer. Not obviously, but biru is beer. And sanbai is 3. So there were 3 of us, so we just kept saying sanbai, biru.
Do they have good beer there?
Do you know, I was a big fan of Kirin Ichiban when I went last time. And this time, I've decided that the best beer was Suntory. And
really?
Asahi, yeah. But yeah, they do some good beer. One restaurant I went into did a chicken so bad that you could have robbed a bank with it. I mean, it was absolutely solid, and like there was like balls of yellow gristle on this stuff, right? That like you'd be chewing on for ages.
Did you tell them?
No, I was too polite.
Oh, did you pay for it?
Yeah, it's too polite not to. Thing is, with Japan as well, the yen is at a 34-year low against the dollar. So when I went there 6 years ago, let's say 1,000 yen was £7. And now when I went over there, 1,000 yen was £5. So everything's now about 30% cheaper. And the food was always cheap, and the beer was always quite expensive, but now the beer's cheap. And everything seems to be getting cheaper there. So if anyone's thinking of going to Japan, this is absolutely the time to do it, because your money will go a lot further than it would have a few years ago.
So where did you stay in Japan? Tokyo?
Yeah, so I stayed in a place called Akihabara. It's actually slightly east of Akihabara, called Asakusabashi.
What's the name of it?
Akihabara.
Akihabara.
Have you been? Do you know
it?
No. I knew you'd say that.
I was just checking the word.
Yeah. So Akihabara, and then slightly east of that, there's a little place called Asakusabashi, which I was staying there, and then went to Osaka as well for a few days. We went to Universal Studios and was a bit disappointed because I like a theme park, I like a thrill ride, and there was only 2 good rides there. So that's 6 hours on a bullet train for two roller coasters, and that was it.
All right. Enough time talking about your worldwide travels.
Oh, I've got many more stories.
Let's talk
bore you for 2 hours with me stories.
Let's talk some wrestling.
Go on, then. We've got some wrestling news. We've got 2 weeks of wrestling news, actually, because we didn't do wrestling news last week. So, musical news first, and we're going to forego Rikishi's attempt into becoming a rap star, and we're going to go straight into...
What happened there? I didn't hear this.
Oh, he posted a song. It wasn't very good. And that's pretty much it. But this one actually made some headway, and it's deliberately cheesy rather than not deliberately cheesy, and it's I Believe in Joe Hendry. So, you listen to this song. Have you ever heard of Joe Hendry before? He's a wrestler with TNA at the moment.
Never heard of him. This was my first exposure to this gentleman whose name is Joe Hendry.
Hendry. Yes. You listen to the song. And
I did listen to it.
You saw him for the first time. Can you believe it?
So he didn't do that for wrestling, right?
That's his entrance music.
I know, but he did it for wrestling, his entrance music. That's what he did it for?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he uploaded it to Spotify. And then somehow it just got a life of its own.
That's weird. That really is. It's a catchy little song. I mean, can we play it?
No.
Why not?
Yeah, because we get copyright. You get content ID thing.
What if we had permission to play it?
We'd still get content ID'd automatically. It'd just be a nightmare. In fact, why not just do it anyway?
See, folks, this is a lot of the problems that we go through, that we can't show certain things on YouTube.
Okay, I think we might get away with it. And if we don't, I can always edit it out. So if you see the song, then we got away with it. If you don't see the song...
They won't demonetize us, will they?
Yeah, they might do. We'll figure it out. One sec. Right, we're back.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. Cause they love him in London and Paris and Tokyo, America, Scotland and Canada and Mexico.
He's on the same hill.
I believe in Joe Hendry.
I
believe in Joe Hendry.
I kind of believe in him too now.
Okay, we'll leave it there. So, and that's like a 1 minute, 20 video.
So he plays this for his entrance music.
Yes, and then he uploaded it to YouTube last year, and then for a bit of a joke, he just put it on Spotify, and somehow a grassroots campaign has led this song to get to number 4 on the UK charts as of last week. They had to play it on the radio and everything.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So he may make some money off that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been enough downloads and listens and stuff like that. He'll make a few pennies off it, definitely.
Okay, but I had never heard of this guy before this.
But we'll just say his name and he'll appear.
Joe Hendry, I believe in him. I didn't even know who he was, but now all of a sudden, not only do I know who he is, I believe in him.
Yeah.
So, well, good for him. Have you ever seen him wrestle? Have you ever seen him work?
I believe I've spoken to him briefly a couple of
Really,
times.
you know him?
I think of email back and forth some time ago. Yeah. You're from the Memphis wrestling school of thinking. Do you remember all these times when Memphis would actually do these music videos and do fun stuff like this? Because this seems like something that's just completely gone now, almost.
They need to go back to that. I believe in the videos, and I've told people this: do videos just with your guys out of the studio. Take them on a trip. They're looking for something. They're looking for a guy. I did this in Puerto Rico, I don't know how many times, but yet it was unique, and everyone was different. We're looking for a different guy. The storyline was different, and we didn't steal it from any. I just made it up out of the day before, and let's do this. And it was kind of, I used two like stupid little guys to present it, so it was kind of had a comedic value to it, but it worked, and it always produced a number. So, but I'm glad with this guy that he can actually sing and produce his own videos, because that will help him later.
I mean, all you need is an iPhone. I mean, which clearly he had. He had one hill on a mountain, and one white background, and that was it. That's all you need. Simple.
Make it simple. It's the old saying, make it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've talked to him?
Very briefly, but it was something different. I forget what it was, but very briefly, I think it was him anyway. I think it was Jack. Right, we're going to move on. Oh, actually, just before I do, right, so I don't know if you've ever had a music video made of you. So
yes, I have.
What was the song that accompanied your highlights? Do you remember?
Well, I had about 2 or 3 made.
Okay.
I can send them to you. I can't send them right now.
It wasn't There's Something Strange About a Cowboy, was it?
No, that was Mr. What was his name?
Street.
Adrian Street. He came up with that song for me. He said, "There's something strange about a cowboy." And if you really listen to the lyrics of it, you go, I don't know if this is a complimentary song, or was a little bit of a diss in there. But, Adrian was before his time anyway. He was writing music and producing music videos. And the thing about Adrian, he did a gay gimmick. You could do that back in those days. You could do it. But he wasn't gay because he had Miss Linda with him. But yet, people who thought he was gay, but yet he had Miss Linda in the corner, which said, wait a minute. He really can't be gay. He's got a girl there. So that kind of messed up their thinking a little bit. But he was entertaining as hell and could back up. If something went wrong in the ring, he just stretched the shit out of you.
Mm-hmm. If Miss Linda didn't get you first, of course.
Oh, yeah. And she was tough, too. So, and Adrian, was a delightful person to be around. He was funny. He didn't look for trouble. Trouble didn't find him, except he may have had a few run-ins in the ring that didn't last long. But, yeah, he was way, way before his time. I learned a lot just by watching him. Mm-hmm. Never asked him any questions or anything. I just watched him. So anything he had to tell me or to show me, I could watch and see. But what made me watch him was that he was successful in this. When he went to the ring, people, they kind of stood up to see him. He was like a thing to go see.
I think it's something with Adrian as well, and with Joe Hendry now, is you can always improve your lot by being creative. Just give something a try, and everyone likes a song. So that's probably some good advice for some wrestlers out there who may be watching this and thinking, what could I do next to do something? Come out with a song. That'll be, or at least some highlights.
Well, a lot of people can't sing. That's me. I couldn't sing and my life depended on it. I'm a pretty good hummer. I can
how's
do
your
that.
whistling?
Not very good. Not good at all.
Oh, okay.
So I can't whistle. Play guitar a little bit. but a lot of people play guitar. But I can't play it uniquely enough to set me apart from anybody else. But yeah, if anybody wants to get started in the wrestling business, anybody can get started. It's to make a kind of a success out of it. And I have seen a lot of guys get started in wrestling, and they've told me, oh, we don't want to do a career. We just like to do it. So it's like a hobby to them. That's fine too. I mean, and some trips they didn't want to make, yeah, they weren't obligated to make them. They did it because of their desire or their like for the business. I wouldn't go as far as say love for the business, but they had to do it to even put up with some of the stuff they put up with. But guys like that are the easiest guys to work with because they're not afraid to try new stuff. Because if it fails, what's the worst that could happen? They just go back to where they were before. But hey, if you don't try anything, nothing's going to get better, man. Your advice was very good. Be creative and come up with some stuff for yourself.
Next one. So we're going to talk about a series of firings. I think, is it 3? Yeah, or cuts, basically. And the first one is...
I got a lot of things to say about this.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've actually got 3 coming up. So the first one is Drew Gulak. So we talked about this a few weeks ago after Ronda Rousey publicly claimed that Drew Gulak flipped the drawstring of her jogging trousers. Gulak's contract with WWE was, quote-unquote, he wasn't fired, he was not renewed, which is essentially him being let go. For some... the punishment may have seemed to not fit the crime, assuming that Ronda Rousey's version of events was the correct one. For other people, it was. However, a number of anonymous complaints then surfaced after Drew Gulak was released, or not renewed, almost as soon as he was gone, claiming that he was a bully and that the Ronda Rousey situation was basically the final straw after WWE investigated Gulak further. So according to talents who talked to Fightful, Gulak would intentionally target legitimate injuries of wrestlers he worked with and once purposely dislocated a finger of a talent who had recently injured that appendage. In another claim, the odd, that's a quote, according to one NXT wrestler, Gulak was said to have been reprimanded by Shawn Michaels after intentionally spiking an opponent during a match. So essentially, WWE sort of investigated Gulak.
What is spiking? What's that mean?
Dropping him on the head, I think.
Okay, all right.
So essentially, WWE started looking into Gulak apparently after the Ronda Rousey claim she made publicly and found out all these complaints about him and basically said, this guy who's making main roster money but is only still in NXT is just not worth the hassle. Mm-hmm. So when you hear all that, what do you make of it all?
Well, if he intentionally hurt guys, and I had never heard that before, and I guess I could make do with it with saying that if he'd have tried this on the main roster or against more experienced talent, he may get the crap beat out of him. Because I know if I went in the ring with somebody and they legitimately tried to hurt me, well, we got a problem. We got a big problem, and I'm either going to try to straighten it out then in the ring or back when we get back in the dressing room. I'm going to see what's the deal. So now, if he'd have done it with some guys, they'd have slapped him right then and there. So, and that's why I tend not to believe that so much. And he may have, I think, he may got a bad rap on that, and it could be true. I don't know. He never tried it with me. So, and I've never met the guy. I've seen him, and I've heard about him. And I only saw him about a year or so ago. He was on Raw. He had a couple of matches on Raw, I think, or SmackDown. That's what I was watching. And they had him on about 3 weeks in a row. Didn't do anything with him. I didn't see much to do it with anyway, unless he's got a personality. And they didn't let him show if he had any personality or not. But he was let go. And I think what it was, just the stars just aligned up. And this thing about Ronda Rousey saying that. Why did she even say that?
think she was promoting her book, and her book has a lot on WWE, and it's just one sort of giant list of grievances with the company. So, and then I think someone made mention of it and just said, obviously it's inappropriate to do that, with Ronda's version of things.
See, I hate that. Somebody who goes to work for the company, and she was a big MMA star, that she got knocked flat of her butt 2 times, I think, right in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And she got knocked out. That Holly Holm, she straightened that left on her, and she was gone. See, one thing, I don't know a damn thing about MMA, but I knew that Ronda was good on the mat. When she got somebody on the mat, that's what she worked for. And I don't know who scouted her, but say Holly Holm. Is that her name, Holly Holm?
Yeah, she was the one who kicked her in Australia, and then Amanda Nunes punched her into submission.
And their coach or their trainer told them, don't let her get you on the mat. That's where she's the strongest. And that's why they went long range with those punches, and she couldn't defend herself. She looked like a starter because she got knocked silly, and she was supposed to be the savior of MMA, women's MMA. She was supposed to be, I think Dana, what's his name? Dana White. Mm-hmm. He wanted to put her on this contract and do all this, but
she was the savior of MMA, women's MMA. I mean, Dana White didn't want women's MMA at all, and the fact that
didn't want it?
Dana White, UFC didn't want women's MMA, and he sort of had to. Yeah. And if that had been a crappy first bout with Ronda, and I can't remember who she faced, but it wasn't. It was a great match, and it proved to be a big draw. And then Ronda Rousey was always one of UFC's biggest stars when she was there, pretty much. But anyway, ignoring that, but ignoring with Ronda, it's with Drew. I'm going to give you one more thing with Drew, and you hear this. Cody Rhodes on Drew Gulak some 7 years ago. So this is, I think, after he left WWE the first time, and he was independent. Says, there is a wrestler by the name of Drew Gulak, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you I think he sucks. He does a grizzled old vet routine. He hasn't done anything or made any money anywhere, and he shouldn't be doing that routine. He looked at me from his table, this is another story, I don't know where it is, and frustrated and jealous because there were people in my line at my table. Hell, they might have been in line just for the pizza. Says to me, so that's what you need to get over. And he walks away in a total huff and a temper tantrum. Since then, that guy's on my list 100%. I will regularly text Ethan Pace just to tell him how much I think Drew Gulak sucks. So when now the absolute tippy-top drawer in WWE, apart from maybe The Rock or whoever it might be, says that you suck and he hates you, I mean, that can't be good for your career in WWE. So, I mean, you must have seen the writing on the wall there.
Well, I wasn't there, but I would go as far as to say that Cody doesn't much like Mr. Drew Gulak at all. And I like I said, I don't know anybody that knows him, but the thing that he was, from what I hear, that he was taking shots at people at NXT and hurting them. It doesn't speak highly of him. So, but I think he should have seen the writing on the wall. I don't know why his name just all of a sudden came out of nowhere with the Ronda Rousey story, but that got it had legs. It ran for a while.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, that he had been released from his contract. They said released, but like you say, that means they just decided not to re-up him. He's not released. You get released when, they end you early. And so, but I don't know what to think about him. I really don't. So
we will move on to the next cut. And this was probably still a surprising one, actually. Gable Steveson. So Olympic gold medalist amateur wrestler. And we've been hearing about him for years now. He got a great big introduction at WrestleMania like a few years ago, saying, the great Gable Steveson, he's coming in, he's a WWE superstar, etc. Then we never saw the guy. So, there's something else I've not written about him as well. I mean, there's some bad timing with this, because if he'd been released 3 weeks earlier, he could have gone to the Olympic trials for the next Olympics, and just because of timing, he couldn't. WWE refused to let him go. Now he's too late for the trials, and now he's released, and now he's got nothing to do. But anyway, Gable Steveson has been released. I think it's just because he sucked at this. You just would have assumed he was great, but he just didn't graduate to it.
Now, you said he sucks. That's a horrible thing for you to say. Do you know him?
No.
Well, I can tell you from seeing him, he's not a very big guy. But I think his big drawback, he had no personality. He was just a guy. He was great at amateur wrestling. Have you ever watched amateur wrestling?
Yes, boring.
Boring? Hell, it ain't that exciting. They get each other and just kind of, nothing happens. But for him to jump from amateur wrestling to pro, not everybody can do what Kurt Angle did. Kurt Angle understood what he needed to do. And I don't know who told him that, but he was damn good at it. Plus, he was a good talker. And Kurt didn't mind playing the village idiot. Was everybody, and even Kurt being a heel, the people halfway liked him. So, and he was so good. He was such a good athlete. I mean, there was nothing the guy couldn't do, really. So, but Mr. What's his name? Gable Steveson?
Steveson. He only had one match. I'm just looking here. He only had one match on TV, and it's the one we watched. It was against Baron Corbin on NXT Great American Bash. It wasn't that bad. He could do the moves kind of thing, but he had no connection to the crowd.
No.
And also the other thing is that back in college, he was accused of sexual assault that then got swept under the rug somehow. We don't know if it happened. Only two people were in the room, that kind of thing, and it was dropped.
Now, why would you bring that up? Does that have any relation to what we're talking to?
Absolutely, because
it does.
Yeah, it does, because a lot of the fans knew it, and I think that was always going to dog him in pro wrestling with pro wrestling audiences. That just some people would just. The accusation was there, and where, as you always say, where there's smoke, there's fire. Who knows what happened, but in the minds of quite a lot of fans, they were never going to like him regardless of what he did. So that was always going to be a hindrance on him.
I never heard that. I don't know. I just see what guys are accused of and what's actually true. I mean. And you would look at him and you wouldn't think he would do that. I mean, he doesn't look like the type who would actually force his way with a woman, with a female. It's always been my contention that if I have to wrestle a woman and fight with her to get her to do things, hell, I don't have the energy for that. I said, go away. Just leave me alone. I bought you a beer. I don't know what you want. But I didn't hear that stuff. But what hurt him is you got to understand what you're getting into. Just because he was a great amateur, and of course they're hoping that he'll get in there and he'll snap to it. Oh, and that's what happened to me. And I think Kurt would tell you probably the same thing. One day it just kind of comes to you like, oh, maybe I need to do this. And Kurt felt it. I felt a lot of guys told me they had a moment that, it had all come to them. And now they knew what they had to do to get over. That you were talking about, there was the first guy we was talking about, Gulak.
Drew Gulak, yeah.
And he was looking at Cody and said, this is what I got to do to get over. Now, that was a smart-ass remark. And no wonder Cody didn't much like him. He may not have liked Cody, but I'm sure there's a lot more behind it than that. I think he had to do more to Cody to get him to. That was a sustained slam on Gulak for a while. You just don't say that in 10 seconds and be done with it. So, but and I don't know him. I don't know. So back to that, I think the thing with Rhonda come out about him pulling her drawstring on her warm up pants, and funny, just simple as that can get you in all this, get people thinking about you the wrong way.
Yeah, the butterfly effect. Just so you know, September the 4th in 2021 is when Stevenson signed with WWE. So he'd been signed for nearly 3 years and apparently hadn't got it at all. So in 3 years,
if you don't get it, if you don't get it in 3 years, you know.
The most interesting of the cuts in some ways is Jerry the King Lawler. So, a true end of an era, Jerry the King Lawler, who had been with the company for 32 years, barring a relatively brief sabbatical after WWF fired his wife at the time, Stacey Carter, has been let go from the WWE after WWE doesn't renew Lawler's contract. He's still got a Legends deal, though, it should be said, but mostly used as a commentator during his WWE tenure, Lawler partially lost his voice after suffering a stroke last year. And as he's a commentator, I guess they just said, forget it, I suppose, which seems such a big shame.
Well, 32 years. Unbelievable. It really is. And he went on strike, or he quit, when they let his wife go. What was her name? Cat?
The cat, yeah, Stacey Carter.
They let her go, and I guess to show his disapproval, he quit. That lasted about a week. So they said, well, you're not getting any more money. Oh, well, wait a minute. I'm going to readjust this. And did they hire her back?
No, they never hired her back. They hired Lawler back because Paul Heyman replaced him. And after that whole WCW WWF invasion catastrophe, Lawler came back after about 7 or 8 months or something. So, yeah. Other than that, it was an unbroken. He was suspended once, but
what was he suspended for?
It was. Do we have to go into this now?
No, we don't have to. But...
No. Okay. There was an accusation made against him in the early 90s. He was suspended for a few months off WWF TV.
He was involved in an incident.
Something like that. And it was going to go to trial. Anyway, he got let off the charges eventually on that thing. Lawler told PW Insider the following after being not renewed. One other thing that a lot of people wonder about my career has probably ended with the WWE, and that's it's just one of those things that goes with my getting over with all the stuff that happened with the stroke, and it was my just sitting behind a desk and doing commentating on a match again was extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So, where's Lawler's voice now? Do you know?
Well, this is another little thing I heard through the little grapevine. You know, that grapevine has a lot of long vines on it. But I heard he had another one, a minor one, but he did have another one within the last 2 or 3 weeks, I heard.
Really?
Or maybe in a month. But must have been not a lot to it. But see, I was supposed to make the Evansville convention, and I had been booked for that for, I don't know, a couple months. And as it got closer, you know, my doctor told me, he said, well, you know, I wish you wouldn't go on that trip. He didn't tell me not to go, but he told me that, you know, it might be better that you sit this one out. So I didn't go, and I really missed going because I always enjoyed going to Evansville, one of my favorite towns to go to. And it was in a building that was about 100 years old, but had been kind of kept up pretty well. And I like those old buildings, but so I didn't go. But talking to the guys who went, Lawler is not the Lawler of old, of course. And his voice is not the same as it was. So, but they said he looked pretty good. And other than that, the people, they love Lawler. Lawler, they've always liked him. And when I was working an angle with him, we were two baby faces who were going after the belt. Then I think he turned heel. It was the shortest, longest program I've ever been in. The main one, I only had 3 matches with him in the main angle. Only 3 matches. But they were good. They all sold out. Not all of them, but I mean the start of it sold out completely. To sell out of Memphis, that's 11,000 seats, and they were there. And all the other towns, they sold out. So you could always tell how an angle was going to do by the first night in Memphis because that TV was current. They play at Memphis, and then the Monday Night House goes off what you did on TV that previous Saturday. But the other towns were always a week late. So if Memphis sold out, you can say, well, Louisville will sell out, Evansville will sell out, Nashville will sell out, and that's when they used to run Lexington, Kentucky. Had a sellout. See, Lexington was running that. They have a basketball program there that's just is tremendous. And they got a 20,000 seat arena, Rupp Arena, in Lexington for the University of Kentucky Wildcats basketball team. And we didn't sell 20,000 seats, but they'd cut it in half. So we'd have 10,000 seats, and it sold out. So we only went there once a month, but that's what you could tell, what you could expect the next week. So, and Jerry Jarrett was talking to me one day. He said, listen, you know how you tell what your next week's going to be? And he told me the formula. He said, if we do $25,000, now this is 1980 prices, which would be like 60 now, or maybe 75,000 in ticket prices now and the way things are. He said, if we did 25,000 in Memphis, we can do 12,000 in Nashville, 12,000 in Louisville. And I think Evansville would do a little less than that. They'd do like 8 or 10. So you could almost say within $1,000 what the houses were going to be. Of course, Jerry Jarrett loved that. Because when you promote something and you go in there and you say, oh, it's going to do this and it's going to do that, he knows before he goes because he knew his territory. So, but the deal I worked with Lawler, he was over strong, and then after he turned heel, I turned heel. I mean, we're going all over the place now, but he was really, really over in that territory. Now he talks about 32 years with the WWE or WWF. Mm-hmm. That is a hell of a run. But I tell everybody that wants to get into wrestling, you're like football coaches. You get hired to get fired. Most of those guys that go through WWE, some of them have never seen the inside of a WWE ring in a live event. They may see it doing NXT, but they never go to the main roster. And they will spend about a year or 2 years down at NXT, then they're gone. Unless you catch them in NXT, you don't know really what they can do. Okay, the Chad guy you were talking about, Chad Stevenson, he went through NXT.
Gable Stevenson.
I'm sorry, Gable Stevenson. He went through NXT.
Yeah, very briefly, he started doing some dark matches on SmackDown as well before he was let go, but he only ever did one on-screen appearance, actually wrestling.
Mm-hmm. How'd he look? Oh, he looked great standing there. He looked like a great athlete. Mm. But yet, you can look like a great athlete and you might not be able to sell one ticket. But I have seen some guys who they look like crap and they could sell out the place. Now tell me that.
Lawler's never been inside of a gym in his entire life and he drank, full sugar Cokes and fried, and ate fried chicken.
Yep.
There's the difference, really. And he was never an amateur wrestler, but he had everything that. It's like Gable Steveson and Jerry Lawler have got everything the other doesn't.
They've gone in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And one was a major draw for decades, and the other one was Gable Steveson.
Major draw for decades, and the other one was Gable Steveson.
Hey, let me ask you this. If Vince McMahon was still in charge of WWE, do you think he would have just signed Lawler again out of loyalty, or do you think Vince would have got rid of him as well?
No, I think he would have re-signed him. But re-signed him for what, really? I mean, I don't think Lawler took this the bad way. I don't think he wanted to go anyway. If he hadn't made enough money by now, 32 years of steady pulling in that big paycheck. So, and Lawler, he lived in Memphis and everybody knew him in Memphis. Everybody. I think he's more over in Memphis than Elvis was. And if he wanted, and this was back in the days when we were still running Memphis on a weekly basis, well, he'd go out and he'd find him a sponsor. Our sponsor would approach him and say, can we do a deal with you, a furniture store, let's say. They advertise locally, not all through the South or not through the country, just locally, just to Memphis. And he would pick that up for 6 months and then a car dealership. And no telling what. He used to get cars, brand new cars. They just give it to him. Just do the deal with us, and you can have the car. And he would get all kind of cars. He get all kind of like TVs and furniture and all this stuff because he made those local commercials. And like I say, I think he was over more in Memphis than Elvis was. It's hard to believe, isn't it? More over than Elvis, but
it's funny, I watched that Baz Luhrmann Elvis film on the plane. It's the only film I watched. It's a good film, actually. And there's tons of historical inaccuracies that really annoy me, but
like what?
Like everything. It's like Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like I'm a big Queen fan, and just there were so many. For artistic reasons we change it. I hate that. It's interesting enough how it is. Just leave the story out to be accurate. Yeah. Anyway.
Did they mention my name?
They said that you and Elvis sold out the Memphis Coliseum in a 3-part in a trilogy. Yeah. You put Elvis over in the end.
I did.
Yeah.
I had to.
You couldn't resist those karate chops.
Yeah. Well, the old story about Memphis, he couldn't come down to the Coliseum. Too many people, he was too famous, really. Because people would be bothering him all night. But they used to have it in what they call another place called Ellis Auditorium, which was more like a theater. And they say that they would slip him in after the matches started because he would only want to come for the main event. They would slip him in, and he would go up to where the projection booth is, and he would watch the matches or the main event. What he wanted to see from there. And sometimes they'd rearrange the card so he could watch the main event because the main event was on before a last match they put on. That's because that would give Elvis time to get out and get away before the people came in. But he was a huge, huge wrestling fan. Mm. And the jumpsuits that Lawler wore later.
Oh, yeah, the second Elvis died. And then all of a sudden, Jerry was the new king of Memphis and stole the jumpsuits. Then
he did that the week of his death, I think. I think Elvis had just been put in the ground, I guess. And Lawler came on Memphis TV Live that Saturday. I think he died on Tuesday or something. And this may be the next week. But Lawler had on what's that outfit called? Said you called it a jumpsuit, but the clothing that Elvis would wear. Mm. And then Lawler started wearing it, and he said, "Hey, don't worry. King didn't go anywhere. I'm the new. I'm the king of. I'm the king of Memphis." And he took that. Then Bill Dundee, he started wearing it too. So you had both of them out there wearing the same thing, trying to capitalize on Elvis's popularity.
Yeah, they should have got Colonel Tom Parker to manage one of them at one point. That would have been a full circle thing.
Have you read that whole story? But this has nothing to do with wrestling. Tom Parker made almost as money as Elvis did.
Yeah,
as much money.
50% split, supposedly at one point. Who knows?
What a deal, huh?
Oh yeah. Didn't he buy him from Sam Phillips for like what, $35,000, which was like an astronomical amount?
How do you know? How do you know about Sam Phillips?
Well, how do I know about a lot of things before I was born?
You read about him.
Yeah, of course.
But the Sun Studios was right down the street. I bet it was no more than, I may be wrong, 8 to 10 blocks away from Channel 5. If you went out of the TV studio and you took a right, you would go right by Sun Studios.
We are going to move. If nothing else, I've just realised how much news we haven't got to yet, so we'll try up. This is going to be probably a long show.
Well, if you'd quit talking so damn much, we could get it in.
Yeah, it's really Sam Phillips and
Sam
the $1 million
Phillips, yeah.
Quartet.
Who'd he beat? Nobody.
Yeah. Well, he did the job to Colonel Tom Parker. He took the money. That was the problem. He didn't look at the long-term investment. Right, we'll go. Next one. And this is interesting. Dave Meltzer and AEW derangement syndrome. So, and he's making several tweets here, and when asked by a fellow tweeter why so many people on the internet, quote-unquote, hate AEW, Dave Meltzer had the following to say. Number 1, some hate anything different from what they grew up with. Number 2, they are taught to hate by bad faith people. Number 3, some have a mission to defend WWE thinking that means hating everybody else. And number 4, some listen to people who hate so much that they take on their viewpoint. So basically 2, 3, and 4 are exactly the same. So, which is sort of an astonishing thing to say, but I've got more before you jump in there. So apparently the only reason wrestling fans choose to hate AEW, or to at least not watch, is because they either refuse to move on from the past, or they have been convinced by outside forces that they must dislike AEW because it isn't WWE. So what galaxy is Dave Meltzer sailing around at this point to be this far away from the reality? I mean, you can just not like something for decent reasons of not liking it. But apparently Dave Meltzer cannot deal with the fact that somebody has not either convinced, they're not moving on with the times, or some other nefarious power out there has convinced you to hate AEW.
Well, in a nutshell, nobody in AEW looks like a star. Nobody. And you could name the stars in WWE. You know who the stars are. It's Cody right now. And of course, when he comes back, it will be The Rock. Of course, The Rock's he's in a universe all by himself. Roman Reigns, he's in a universe by himself now. They're gone right now, and they're still kicking AEW's butt.
Yeah, so there's Seth Rollins who's gone, there's Drew McIntyre who's still there, there's CM Punk, there's everyone in the bloodline now who are becoming stars, like Solo and Tangaloa and Tama Tonga and stuff like that. There are many, many people there. But the thing is, AEW has quite a lot of former WWE stars whose stock has dropped since going over there.
No kidding. Because your stock would drop when you go to, and I don't want to say this because I appreciate what Tony Khan has done. He did put his money where his mouth is. And he does pay those guys, I hear, very, very well. So I'm not going to knock him because he's a big wrestling fan, put his mouth where his money where his mouth is, and went out there. But the show it looks second rate to WWE's show. One of the things that make it look second rate is the lighting and the fact that nobody comes to the shows. The other thing, they showed a picture the other day of an AEW show, and on the hard camera side, usually they put tickets that haven't been sold that right there because they're shooting across. They're going to put all the people that come in on the far side of the hard camera. But this hard camera side, there was nobody in it, and it probably held like 300 people. Maybe a couple on the top edges, like 2 or 3 people in it. But it looked terribly empty and lonely too. But the show doesn't look, it's not lit well. It's not, I don't like their commentating. I don't like that. I don't like their interviews. I mean, it looks so independent when it comes to the interviews. I've seen some interviews, they were like 47 or 48 seconds. What are you going to get out of an interview out of 48 seconds? Like you have an intro and a wrap up. Hell, the talent's only got like 30 seconds to talk. What you going to get over in 30 seconds? Nothing. But if they can't see this, I mean, it's not my job to tell them about it. They know about it. See, I read about Tony Khan that he likes to treat this like when he was a kid and he had these little toy wrestlers and he puts main event on just cold. It has no heat behind it. It has no backstory to it. It has nothing. He just wants to see the match, they say. But you got to also think, well, how many people are thinking like, if I was Tony, I would think, how many people are thinking the same way I am, that I would like to see this guy versus this guy without any story of them appearing together or no grudge, no nothing. I just want to see it, so I think everybody else should too. Well, it don't work that way. And now I also heard that Warner Brothers, Disney, is that who?
No, Warner Brothers Discovery.
Oh, Discovery, I'm sorry. They lost something, or they signed something. It was an NBA.
Yes, they've lost the NBA rights to, is it ESPN they've lost to? I can't, they've lost the rights to the NBA now, so that's going to be a huge dent in their viewership, of course.
And that was a big, big contract. And so that they may not make them want to renew AEW at the price it is now.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, actually, because do you think...
Well, see, that's what I'm here for, just to ask questions.
I didn't even write that down because I didn't think we'd ever get to it. But do you think, and we'll get back to AEW derangement syndrome, do you think that the fact that TBS now doesn't have NBA, is that a good thing because now they've got all this extra money to pump into AEW, for example? Or do you think it's a bad thing because maybe they just want to save more money on spending on sports or sports presentations?
I don't know what their thinking is, but wrestling's not burning the turnstiles. That's not burning that out. They're not selling tickets at the live events. So if it's not exciting to people on the ground, how's it going to be exciting to people on TV? Mm-hmm. I think they look at it for this programming, but they want programming that has a chance to grow. AEW's been there 5 years, and they've actually went back. They went downhill. They haven't gone uphill. And if you watch the show, even if you're a huge wrestling fan, there's so many questions that you can ask. Why don't they do this or why don't they do that? Just by wrestling fans. That's not hating on AEW. That's AEW not giving the people what they want. And if people want it, I always say, tell a story. Because what the wrestling can miss, the story might be able to pick up. But if you got a good enough story, they're going to tune in to see what's going to happen. But they have so many guys hurt and so many guys out. Right? I'm talking about WWE, the guys missing. They're still kicking their butts.
Well, AEW's the same in that sense. They've got so many people missing, like MJF or Adam Cole, or in fact, we're going to mention Eddie Kingston soon enough. But I I want to stick to Meltzer's thing here. Do you think Meltzer's constant sticking up for AEW is actually a detriment to AEW in the long run? Is it going to put off some... No?
I think it is.
Oh, you think so?
Because he was so... I remember TNA, because I don't think anybody kissed his butt other than Dixie, I guess, when I was there. But he never did us any favors. He never said, no, good show, this, that, and the other. He was always nitpicking. And you can nitpick something to death. So when I say something about AEW's lighting, that's not nitpicking. That's a big deal. Because it makes it look cheap. Very cheap. So, but I think he goes out on a limb by himself that said, well, it's better than what the people want to say it is. Well, they're just going to go by the ratings. The ratings will tell you how much the people enjoy the show. And if they don't enjoy the show, they're not going to watch it.
On a recent Wrestling Observer Radio, when asked what AEW needs to do to bolster their chances of getting a good deal with... Oh, by the way, I think it might be NBC that NBA is going to... I'm sorry, I can't remember. What AEW needs to bolster their chances of getting a good deal from Warner Brothers Discovery when the TV rights renew. Dave Meltzer's advice was essentially stay on the course and do more local promotion for house shows and TV tapings. Nothing to do with...
That won't make the network pick you up any sooner.
No.
Stay on local promoting may help a local show. Yes, I'm agreeing with him there. But how does that make a network want to re-up a contract at a higher price?
Well, exactly. There's nothing about, as you say, improving television production, which it definitely does, booking satisfying long-term storylines, closing creative loopholes, sort of explaining why people are being left off TV for no reason for two. Ricky Starks was out recently and said, I wasn't injured. It was reported that he was injured a couple of months ago. He was with Big Bill as a tag team. They were recent AEW champions. And all of a sudden he disappears. I think he had a bit of a scary bump, but said he was fine. And now he's just been left off TV for 2 months, and he's no idea why. Sammy Guevara is off suspension now. He's not back on TV.
I'm assuming these guys have gone to Tony themselves and said, why? I'm ready to go. Well, can you give me a start date, or can you? And apparently they don't even have that.
No. It's like with Punk when he was injured and they didn't even sort out with the triceps injury, and they didn't even sort out any medical stuff for him. He had to do it all himself, which is, he's a big boy, he can do it himself. But if you get injured in an AEW ring, the company should be sorting this out for you, surely. And the same with Miro, Rusev. He doesn't know why he's being left off TV all the time, and they didn't even Tony Khan didn't even realize he was injured. So when he tried to call him up for this Meat Madness thing recently, he called up Miro and said, "Let's do it." And Miro's like, "Dude, I've been injured since January," and didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's getting off the thing here. I'm going to give you this quote by Mike Johnson of PWI. Wrote some 10 days ago as his theory as to why Meltzer shills so hard for the number 2 brand. Meltzer has said for years that if a Japanese-style, work rates-based product ever came along to the United States, it would become the product, because that's what wrestling fans really wanted to see. He thought that because he liked it, that would have to mean that the masses do as well. Yes, hubris at its worst. He staked his reputation on that belief and made a number of statements about how AEW...
Wait a minute, I like that word, hubris.
Hubris, I like that word as well.
Nerve.
The nerve of it. He staked his reputation on the belief that and made a number of statements about how AEW would show the world he was right when they started, and he has been proven 100% wrong. My belief is that he's cheerleading for AEW is not about promoting Tony Khan, it's about him desperately hoping that he can be proven right about having his pulse on the wrestling business, while probably realising deep down inside that he doesn't. Too harsh? Or does it sound about right to you?
No, that's about right. That's about right. Because he goes to Japan, he thinks Japan is...
No, I go to Japan.
Oh, you do. But, and he thinks by bringing that style here, they brought that style here. And the people say, American fans are different than Japanese fans. Japanese fans are different than Mexican fans. They're all different and they like different things. So if you're the booker of a territory, wouldn't it be to your benefit to know what your fans pop to or they like and give them that instead of trying to institute a new brand? That bring in that mat worked Japanese style of the U.S., I think it would bomb. Because, see, they've had wrestling on TV, it's 1950, 70 years. And a lot of it still hasn't changed. It's still the story, and you got the showmanship, the entrance, and I think lately that WWE, not before the new people took over, but look at WWE. They were going downhill fast, what, a year and a half ago when Vince was still in there? Mm. So, and I was dreading having to watch their show. I watch their show, their SmackDown show, every Friday night because I'm paid to watch it. That's the only reason I'm going to watch it. But now the show is kind of enjoyable to watch because they have put some thought behind it, and you can tell that. And where WWE is getting better now, and this is better than just a mat-based product, is because they have the little things. They're bringing that out on commentary. See, if you're thinking something about, well, this happened or that happened, but they can bring a little thing that they may have mentioned before, but at least they cover it. But a lot of times that they would just run by it and hope that the fans get it, which they don't. And look at the ratings. When The Rock comes back in 6 months or however long he's going to be out, and Roman comes back, they're going to explode because they're going to be hyping that for 6 weeks. The closer it gets, the stronger it's going to get. And I expect almost, I don't know what the rating will be, but if they do it right, they'll do over a 3, maybe a 3.3. That's a huge rating. A huge rating. That's like 5 million people. To get 5 million people to watch that show, that would be, I wonder what he would say with that. And The Rock doesn't do his mat work on the mat. He tells the story. And he's good to listen to, and the Roman too. So we'll see. And I think Meltzer is about 100% totally wrong. I think he's been in the wrestling business too much and watched too many matches. And I think he
colors your judgment, that, doesn't it? When you watch too much wrestling, it completely changes what you're hoping to see.
See, somebody asks, how much do you watch wrestling? I watch it very little, really, because I've seen about all you can see. But now, if they do something good and the talk is going, hey, you got to see this, you got to see this, well, yeah, I'll go over there. But they got to do something pretty well out of the ordinary or pretty extraordinary for me to watch it.
Yeah, I think the perfectly legitimate criticisms of AEW and WWE. There's always going to be people who hate WWE or hate AEW just because they've got nothing else in their lives, I guess. And there's most people will criticize AEW because they want to get it better. They don't want to see it go away. They want people to have jobs. They want a proper wrestling war, and they want to see it get better and improve. And just little things like, a bit of improved production on maybe not quite on WWE's level, but just some creativity. Like, as we were saying, Joe Hendry, a great little idea. What you did in Puerto Rico so many years, great ideas, and they're simple things. Bit of consistent storytelling. I'm sorry, Dutch, I bowled over you there. What were you going to say?
Well, I forgot now.
All right.
No, remember about, I don't know, a year and a half ago when WWE was in the slump?
Yeah.
AEW was doing pretty good. They were growing, And I don't know what got into them, but their product became, I would rather watch their show than to watch the WWE show because they showed some creativity. And of course, WWE was in the slump. Their ratings were down. And this was the time for AEW to really step out. And they missed it. They missed the curve. It was going too fast going into the curve. And then WWE, the change went into effect. And now they're back on the sucking on the hind tit, as they say, as they say on the pig. But see, you gotta get on an opportunity when it presents itself. But see, when you talk about Tony Khan, he's not wrestling people. He's a fan with money. So, and I think maybe in his head, he likes certain things, which is fine. But if you want to try to book a company, you better have the total thought processes of the masses in your mind, because you just can't book on what you like. You can book a match or two. That's where the women come along. They used to book women in WWE just as an afterthought. We'll give the damn perverts out there something to go. We'll book this girls' match. And it wasn't until I got to the knockouts kind of got over that they kind of started looking at it like, well, maybe these girls do have a place in pro wrestling, and they do.
Now, your favourite subject. Woo! It's Ric Flair with no less than 4 stories.
I laughed like hell this week.
I'm glad you did, because we're going to go on the most innocuous of the stories first. So there's a new documentary coming out featuring a host of WCW types discussing why World Championship Wrestling died out. And it's like the mystery of why WCW died, and somehow it's still a mystery to somebody, because I was watching WCW every week, and it was dog shit. It was some of the worst TV in history, not even wrestling, just the worst TV in 2000. It was awful. Anyway, Ric Flair tweeted out, and rightly so, quite frankly, his being offended that he was never asked to be interviewed for the documentary. And he was, along with Sting, probably Mr. WCW. I don't understand how you can't interview him and call yourself a proper documentary, essentially, on WCW. Anyway, so it doesn't matter. This is going on the back. It was the on-screen presentation that was awful. And here's what Ric Flair quoted. As usual, more bullshit. No interview with Ric Flair, who was WCW, and who made everyone there for 20 years, run by the same people who killed the company. How embarrassing. A documentary about WCW without me. And according to Eric Bischoff, I was the greatest WCW wrestler, and I made everyone in the company as there wouldn't be anyone without me. Diamonds are forever, and so is Ric Flair. Which he's right, for the most part. I mean, in the ring, he made so many people. But anyway, very quickly, before we go on to the next thing, why do you think WCW died?
Well, mismanagement. They didn't know how to book it either. When it went to the people at TBS, it just, other than that 83 weeks that Bischoff got out of it, and then it went to hell. It went straight into the toilet. But Flair talking there. Who did this documentary? Vice?
No, it's The Rock's 7 Books Productions company, who you did a documentary, a roundtable discussion, a 2-parter on Andy Kaufman and Memphis. So it's the same people.
But that was Vice, though.
It was on Vice, but it was 7 Books Productions company, though, wasn't it, that produced it?
Mm-hmm. So he got his little feelings hurt because they didn't ask him because he was the star of WCW. Mm-hmm. My God, come on, Rick. They didn't ask you. How much money was he wanting?
I wonder if they even asked him, because I know Eric Bischoff was invited and Vince Russo talks on it, And I don't think either of them are big fans of Ric Flair and vice versa. So maybe they didn't want Ric Flair's version. Who knows?
Yep.
But we're not here to talk about WCW. We're talking about all the stuff Flair's been up to this past week. We're going to get onto Pizzagate soon enough, and the heart attack as well. But Conrad Thompson, his former podcast host, will never do another show with Ric Flair.
That's his father-in-law.
It's one of their father. We get on this every time. Conrad's the son-in-law, Ric Flair's the father-in-law.
I don't know.
Trust me on that.
They're related somehow.
Yeah.
Legalities.
Another thing to note. So over the past year, Conrad Thompson's been dropping quite a lot of podcasts, like Mick Foley and a couple of others. One of them with Eric Bischoff, I think, as well, and probably rightly so. Mentioned on Twitter that if someone asked him if he's ever going to restart a podcast with his father-in-law with a new format, and Conrad said, "Never will I ever do another podcast with Ric Flair." Have you ever heard a podcast featuring Ric Flair as the star?
No. Ever heard of what now?
Ric Flair, one of Ric Flair's podcasts.
No, I've never listened to it. No. Have you?
Yeah, I tried to. So
he's all over the place, isn't he?
Yes. Gives really bad answers and is usually drunk. If he's not eating on the microphone.
That's what I read.
Yeah.
So Conrad Thompson said he'll never do another podcast with him.
Yeah, imagine like your own son-in-law will publicly say, "I will never ever work with him again." How bad can one person be?
Well, if the person in question is Ric Flair, I don't think words can describe him. So, do you have the clip of when he was in the argument in Florida?
Oh, we'll get to that. Don't you worry about that. Before we do, though, we're going to talk about the heart attack. So it's a good thing that Conrad dumped Flair, but it's a bad thing that Conrad promoted what could have been Ric Flair's death on television. So, Ric Flair's last match, unbelievably high risk, and it really was putting Flair's life at risk in order to flog some pay-per-view buys. It turns out that Ric Flair, who at the time was 73 years old and rocking a pacemaker/defibrillator, had done even more damage to his body than previously thought. So he did some interview recently and said, "I trained for my last match. I got in the best shape ever since I was 20 years old."
I don't think he got in that good a shape.
No. And then I had a heart attack during the match. I didn't know myself until about 6 months ago. I go to the heart doctor like every 6 months because I've got a pacemaker. Then I went to get what's called a calcium scan, which I'd never had before because a couple of guys died in our business of heart issues also. It kind of scared me, so I went and I blew a number on that, and they give you the nuclear stress test, shoot you with the dye, put you on a treadmill, everything right. So it's 2 days of 3 hours of testing, and this is 6 months ago. The guy takes me in, and if you look at your heart like a round pie, there's a piece of my heart right there that is big, it's black, it's gone, he continued. The guy said, I presume a doctor and not just some guy, "You've had a heart attack."
One of us is a janitor. The janitor said, "I've read these for years."
Yeah, and the cafeteria worker said that this black pie I'm holding. Anyway, it said, "You've had a heart attack in the last 2 years." I said, "I never hurt." He said, "Have you passed out in the last 2 years?" And during my last match, I passed out 3 times. I thought it was twice, but apparently it's gone up to 3 now. And I thought it was because I was dehydrated, so I went in the locker room. I was with Kid Rock and Undertaker. I just drank 2 bottles of Gatorade and went back out, blah, 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 partying. But I had a heart attack. It didn't hurt. No, none. I feel great. That's my problem. I'm sure I'm just going to fall off my chair one day. So he did indeed have a heart attack. Is that even surprising at this point?
Well, they thought he had a heart attack. It was reported that night. They thought he had a heart attack that night. When he was laying on the mat and not responding, they thought he'd had a heart attack. And he denied that, no. And then he goes and he checks it out, and it comes back now that he did have a heart attack, and he could have died very well, like you mentioned. He could have very well died in that match. But then I got to thinking, well, where else would he want to be if he died? I think he'd want to be in the wrestling ring with people around. And so he'd still be the center of attention after death. So I don't know.
I look back on this and just think, well, this is one step from the absolute worst case scenario. Like, it's just some sort of like negligence suit. I mean, obviously Ric Flair's not, it was his idea, I guess. But I mean, I just sort of like think of the complete negligence of allowing someone that old with that bad of a health history, at least in the last few years, with a pacemaker back in the ring, and then he keeps on collapsing. And he still beats Jeff Jarrett.
There is negligence there. But where is the negligence on part of? The promoter, which was partly Flair. Him and his father-in-law.
Son-in-law.
Son-in-law. Don't get me into that.
We go through this every time. I got confused as well.
I am all confused. But for Conrad to say that he will never do another podcast, that means that he will never do another any kind of a wrestling event with Flair either. Because if he does the next one, I don't know.
Maybe
him and Jerry Lawler. Lawler's had 4 strokes. 4. And Flair's had how many heart attacks?
Well, I mean, not even the heart attack was the thing. It was this complete organ failure that he had a couple of years beforehand. And then he started drinking again and, carrying on.
Well, it goes to show me that Flair don't give a crap whether he lives or dies, which is good, I guess, if you can atone yourself to that. And you said, well, I've had as much fun as I can have, and I'm ready to go on. So, and he may be ready. I don't know. I can't answer for him.
Just to add one more thing.
We'll see what happens to him.
Just to add one more thing. So it should be noted that Flair looked better in the training footage. We've talked about this before. In the training footage that was released like 2 months before the main match. And then he couldn't train for the last few weeks because he had plantar fasciitis, which is, pain in the foot. So basically, he couldn't train for weeks. He probably lost all of his gains because he's 73 at this point. You've got to train consistently. It's harder to sort of get fit, obviously, at that age. And then, he drank heavily beforehand. I mean, at some point when he can't train, he's got plantar fasciitis, at some point should someone have just stepped in and said, this show is off? I mean, isn't this what, athletic commissions don't really exist too much for wrestling these days, but
no.
But I mean, shouldn't someone in legal or, something like that have just said, this is a complete folly? Or was it just too much money?
They didn't have a legal. It was an independent show set up like some guy runs the town down the street in a high school gym. That's basically what it was. It was run on a shoestring, for except what they paid their talent. And they had a big house. Flair said he got $300,000 of it. I don't believe that at all, that he got $300,000. If he did, congratulations, Rick. You made $300,000 you didn't expect. Can you imagine getting up one morning and all of a sudden $300,000 just drops out of the sky on you? Oh, here it is. There's your payoff. Good. But so if he had had a heart attack, you're saying, would they be a legal suit to be involved?
Well,
could it have been?
Well, I suspect if he died, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who would sue who? I guess they're all family, but it smacks of just something that should have been stopped. I mean, it shouldn't really have been suggested ever.
Yeah.
But it seems like there were warning signs to stop this before Ric Flair actually got out there and then collapsed 3 times and had a heart attack.
See, everything about Flair is to make him look like the center of attention. When he when he goes as far to have a legitimate heart attack, to be the center of attention, I think he's pretty serious on that.
Well,
so, Flair, you do what you want to do, buddy, and I'm pulling for you. I think you're a piece of crap, but other than that, so enjoy your life.
Well, speaking of being a centre of attention, Pizzagate. So, the other Pizzagate, by the way. This is the newer Pizzagate, and I think it happened round your neck of the woods, did it?
Gainesville.
Was it in Gainesville?
Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida.
Excuse me, I'd written Tampa. I think I just got it wrong. Anyway, Ric Flair's most recent trouser-dropping embarrassment comes from getting kicked out of a pizza parlor. Where's Gainesville to you in Tampa?
It's about 100 miles away.
That's not too far.
130.
So, there's a video of a bystander filming a confrontation. He's drunk in the day, can you believe? And he was apparently upset that the manager of the pizzeria was taking too long using the facilities. We'll watch the video in a minute, but Flair later tweeted, do bear with me, I spent $1,500 at Paisano's, which is what the pizzeria was called, to be disrespected more than I ever have in my entire life. Well, clearly he doesn't listen to this show. Flair wrote, after taking 20 pictures with customers and staff, I was asked to leave because of an issue I had with the kitchen manager taking too long in the bathroom. I would highly recommend that anyone who wants to enjoy relaxing time in Gainesville at a nice restaurant to never visit this place. Woo.
Well, he roasted them.
Yeah. More insane is that it somehow managed to spend $1,500 in a pizzeria in the day, even though apparently he was with 20 people. I mean, how much does a pizza run up these days?
He didn't spend $1,500.
No.
I don't think he spent $200, $300.
No.
He might have done that with drinks. That's about right.
Yeah, for him maybe, but
he was going to give the waitress $1,000. I think he did give the waitress $1,000, and they turned it down.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
They did. The co-owner of this pizza joint said the following after reviewing video footage. It says, we have reviewed video of the incident that took place recently at our restaurant. It was clear our team worked in a professional manner to ensure the safety of guests and staff. Well, I don't know what the safety is. Maybe Ric Flair might keel over and have another heart attack, but apart from that, I don't think he was going to... Anyway, we have thanked our team for their professionalism. We are proud of how they responded to this situation, using and displaying our team's value. What situation was it exactly? Well, why don't we watch it together? Dutch, you've seen it, and also, Dutch, I've not.
You haven't seen it?
I sent you the link. I just get so embarrassed with these things. But anyway, on behalf of whoever's in it.
It's only like a minute 15 or something.
Well, we're going to watch it together. So bear with me 1 minute. I'll cue it up. Okay, here we go.
I didn't do anything wrong. Except spend money and put this place over.
To sloppy slurring.
Yeah.
My family friends there.
And you can tell that's Flair's voice, and you can read the
Yes, sir.
you can read the captioning here is what he's saying.
I don't think the caption is that great.
Well, you better.
He said he's going to put it on the internet.
What's your name, Job? Nicholas Dickhead.
Don't ever talk.
And he was drunk as hell. And it was embarrassing. It embarrassed me watching it by myself.
I didn't do one thing wrong.
Yeah, you did, Rick, going in there. See, this is in Gainesville, Florida.
Your kids, I costed really. What world do you live?
Accosted. I don't know what he's saying here.
Did I touch him?
This looks, if you look at it, it looks like it's a little set up, but it's not. And somebody went back in that kitchen and they shot through the door. Flair never saw it. Then he says something to this one guy when he tells the manager he wants to take him outside.
Here we go. No, I'm going to give you $1,000 tip.
To him, kiss my ass.
Oh, so that's what the $1,000 tip was about.
Yeah, it was about we're going to give it to the...
You're disrespecting me. Telling me to leave.
I'm not telling you to leave, we're just telling you that you're cut off.
Oh, I'm cut off and I'm drunk? Really?
Ah, right. So he's not been thrown out. He's cut off from drinking too much because he's a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
And he's a smart ass. So he told the waitress to give her a $1,000 tip for the money he gave. Said he spent $1,500. But that don't look like a high scale pizza restaurant. But to say the pizza is really good.
They just called him a dipshit.
Trust me, I won't come back again. Come on inside here and talk to me like a man.
Oh, I see. So he's now challenging
Now
him to a
the
fight.
guy on the left hand side, you can barely see him. He's going to speak up. And I said, you want to go out? I'll go. I don't give a shit. I don't work here. What'd you say?
What's that?
What's that? He heard him.
What you say to me?
Did you say something to me?
Oh, I brought my whole family here.
And that's about it. So
Oh
he,
my
he
God.
comes off as a butthole, an asshole. And I don't know. He should just have a shirt said, I'm an asshole. So he can wear it. He can wear it everywhere. But that embarrassed everybody in the restaurant. Plus, it embarrassed them more because they all know who Flair is. And I bet you 75% of those people in there knew who Flair was and knew that he was a damn a butthole and a damn smart ass. And now he's wanting the manager, to go out and let him have a fight. So if the guy, listen, this is what would happen to the guy that he invited out. If he hit Flair, you know he'd go to jail.
Yeah, the guy. Even though he was the one who was challenged.
Yeah. Even if Flair hit him, but he hit him back, he would go to jail because he hit somebody over the age of 65. That's called elderly abuse till they watch this tape, and then they'd probably reverse it. But this is, I've heard this before. I've been around Flair, and he's drunk, and everybody is underneath him. And that's why he was so mad at them doing the deal on WCW, because they didn't mention him. Because if he's not the savior, then what is he? What good is he for? This is a mild case of Flairism. It flares up every now. You like that? It flares up every now and then. See?
Did he, when he was apparently very frequently imbibing, did he often start fights or try to incite fights, or is this just something new in his?
I never heard of him being in a fight in my life.
No, I don't think I've ever heard of him having a fight.
Never heard of it, because I think people knew that he would probably blow up around guys that knew him. If he was in the restaurant, they'd get him out. People looked after him to keep him from getting into more trouble. That would be hard to explain. You get your ass whipped by a pizza house manager.
I don't know the pizza house manager.
Rick?
But, I mean, Ric Flair can barely move. I cannot see him winning a fight.
No, it was a bad look on Flair, and a bad look on the wrestling profession itself. It really was.
This also is still current AEW star Ric Flair, by the way. He's still contracted with the company.
And they said nothing about it.
No, AEW said nothing about it.
And really, in their defense, what can you say about it? Nothing. The best thing is to say nothing and let it blow over on its own. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he says you're going to read the internet or go online and read all the bad stuff about your restaurant. The next day he comes out with an apology to them. And he says he's sorry.
Not really, though. He wasn't.
Yes, he did.
Well, he was sort of like, I'm sorry it got to that point and blah,
but
blah,
I was
blah.
only defending myself.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah. So it's not really an apology. It's not like, oh yeah, I was out of order, I took things, it's like he's defending his position but feeling like he has to apologize.
Why? Well, if he hadn't have been drinking.
That video came out probably.
And showing his butt. Oh, he was going to bring it out anyway if this video wasn't there. He was going to come out with his story. But this video came out and now he can't tell the story. They messed up his story. So now he can't tell it.
So that's Paisanos in Gainesville, Florida. So go and have a pizza there. Go show them some love.
And I actually looked it up. They have like 5 or 6 places around Gainesville. So I would like to find the one that he did this in, talk to the manager. I think I'll call him up and tell him I'm from Wrestling Daily and give him a name like a fake sounding name like Dave Meltzer.
David Meltzer.
Oh yeah, David Meltzer from Wrestling Observer Newsline.
We are going for this sort of doesn't quite reference Meltzer, but I think it alludes to him slightly. We're talking about Billy Corgan. So a few months ago, this was everywhere. This was NWA Sarwin. This is Father James Mitchell doing what appeared to be a great big bag of the old devil's dandruff, the old.
I saw it.
The old cocaine. Oh God! Well, I've got something.
We talked about it.
Oh God! Yes, we talked about it. We definitely talked about it. So anyway, Billy Corgan has now claimed that the infamous cocaine spot on NWA Sarwin had nothing to do with what was speculated to have caused NWA TV to be demoted from the CW network to the CW network app. So, here's what Billy Corgan had to say about it. About 4 days after the event, this is the pay-per-view, CW, I don't want to say who, but certainly one of the top people at CW called me and said, "What is this all about?" I said, "I don't know. No one from your world has reached out to me." He said, "There is no problem over here. We're reading all these articles and we don't understand what the issue is. So to be official, there is no issue with what we did. No, we think it's funny. There was no issue. It was a completely invented story by either a troll inside the company or a leaker or something." Wouldn't you hate to be a leaker, Dutch? Anyway,
I don't get that explanation.
No, I don't get it either. Anyway, as I joked about at the time, a fake drug spot versus a cheese grater to somebody's head, that's okay in professional wrestling. I didn't like all the pearl clutching. The fake rumours that we had endangered our CW spot, that was certainly annoying because it was putting a perception out there that we had done something wrong. We had never done anything wrong as far as CW was concerned. If people took offence to that spot, that's fine, that's wrestling. But the pearl clutching from the crowd, that I found really amusing. So, what do you buy of Billy Corgan's explanation that CW Network found the cocaine spot amusing?
Nothing surprises me in wrestling. And they may have found it amusing. They don't even watch the show. But I don't know what to make of that. I really don't. But they've already been demoted to the app. So the next demotion is just off the network, period.
How many people are going to be watching the CW Network app?
5.
That many?
Yeah.
So,
well, Corgan may watch it. That's 6.
Yeah. I want to point out that, and I didn't realise this because I didn't actually research it at the time. I looked it up. We need to point out that NWA Sarwin, that pay-per-view with the cocaine thing.
What is the Sarwin? What's that mean?
Oh, it's some sort of like pagan Halloween-y kind of thing.
Okay.
So I gather. I thought Sarwin was like a place. But
yeah, I did too.
Well, maybe it is, but maybe it's like.
But it's like Halloween or something.
Something like that. Anyway, that pay-per-view did a staggering 212 buys.
Was that on the app?
This was before CW. This was straight pay-per-view. 212, supposedly, they did.
Boy, they took a damn ass kicking on that one.
Yeah. So, anyway, CW Network would have obviously never noticed unless this all went viral. One more thing about Billy Corgan. He says, apparently a cheese grater is fine in pro wrestling, but cocaine isn't. I don't remember seeing in one major wrestling company a cheese grater.
Hey, how many cocaines have I seen in the wrestling business?
More?
Not on TV, though.
No.
But a lot.
Also, Billy Corgan has also on the CW app a backstage documentary on his life coming out. Partially NWA, partially his marriage, partially going on the road and stuff like that. Will you be watching?
Billy Corgan has that?
Yeah, that's coming out.
No, I don't think I'll be watching that.
Okay, then. CM Punk gets locked into WWE HQ. You watched the videos, you've seen what happened.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that was staged.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Wait a minute, don't they have security around headquarters in Stanford? How could he get locked in? Now, think about it. You're in the headquarters in Stanford, the WWE headquarters, and they're shooting this, and nobody checks to lock up or anything or check the room or... I don't think he got. I don't know what happened, but I don't think he got locked in. I really don't.
Well, if it's just a publicity stunt, what's the end game with it?
Just publicity, like they're working. I guess I don't know what that is. This business, the more they do, the more I don't understand it. And it could be he could have gotten locked in. I don't know.
But your contention is when you're watching it, contrived.
It's all contrived. It all is. Football, pro football. It's all contrived.
Just to go through, apparently he got locked in. He went to the bathroom to change his suit. However,
and he comes out, and everybody's gone. Just everybody leaves him. Who'd he come with? Nobody?
I figure on his own, yeah.
And nobody checked to see if he was out of the bathroom.
Apparently not. So, however, he got locked in. He revealed that when he came out, everybody was gone. 45-year-old... This is from SE Scoops, by the way. The 45-year-old wrestler further revealed that he got locked in for a long time and had to miss his flight back home. He posted in another story, Punk showed Adore reading Executive Wellness and stated, that sounds really fancy. And then, leaving the gym, CM Punk said that he had to do some Phantom of the Opera type shit and be Dante from Clark's before heading to the hall. He could be seen slapping the crotch of WWE legend Andre the Giant, and this marked the end of the Instagram stories. So, yeah, you're not buying it then?
Nope. Who did the story?
This is the write-up was from SE Scoops, but these are all Instagram stories from CM Punk's own Instagram. He was live.
And he was slapping the balls of Andre the Giant.
Well, the statue of, yeah. They haven't, like, stuffed him and put,
And they had a picture of that.
Yeah.
Who took the picture?
That'll be Punk, I guess.
Because Punk took the picture like this, and pointing here, and I don't know.
I figured that. Anyway, we'll move on. We've got a few more things to get through, and oh Jesus, God, let me have a look. Yes, we do. New Wyatt family group. I know the guys passed on and everything. Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda. You were never that big of a fan of Bray or the Wyatt family or anything like that. And anyway, that's coming back.
No, I nothing against the family, nothing against Bray. I just don't like the way they tried to tell the story. And I also read that the final match of Undertaker, the Undertaker wanted Bray Wyatt
to beat him, yeah, or to end the streak at least, yeah.
And I don't get that either. But I could get Undertaker wanting to do it, but I just didn't see. He was supposed. This is what I didn't understand. I don't think nobody else did either. He's supposed to be a heel, but yet you liked him. When he comes out with that candle and everybody comes up with their phone, they're saying, hey, we got you, man. We got you. And they liked him. Made him a baby face, made him a good guy. You may have got some returns out of it at the gate. What was his merchandise doing?
Pretty darn well, I think. When he was the Fiend,
that's why they put him in there.
Yeah, sold the masks and they sold the belts and stuff like that. I think it did quite well. But after... God, we're talking...
Well, what they should have sold, according to Drew Gulak, is pizza at a table with Cody.
Yeah.
That's how you get over, give pizza away. So if you can do that, then you get over.
See, they should rename this new Wyatt group the Pizza Family and have Jim Herd as their manager.
Or Flair.
Flair. But he'd be kicked out of the group.
But he's not there. I think AEW needs to pick it up and take it over there and make Flair I got a deal. Flair becomes the pizza owner and runs a little pizza shop. And they have a little weekly deal, and he talks about all the wrestlers he don't like. Till they come in there and beat the crap out of him, then they do a big match.
And then they win $1,000 tip.
Yes, that's all they get.
So we've got Jim Herd. Jim Herd's the owner, Ric Flair's the manager, and then the guy who works in there. Have you seen, I can't remember what he's called, like Luigi or something. He's like the wrestling pizza guy, and he spins dough.
Yeah, I've seen that.
See, what would that be a faction?
That would be a good one.
Right, new White family group is now Bo Dallas as Uncle Howdy.
Yep.
Not seen in over a year. Dexter Loomis, not wrestled in a year. We don't know why. Joe Gacy, he's an NXT regular. Eric Rowan, he was in the original White family. Eric Redbeard, or the Vintner, as I prefer to think of him as, recently rehired. And Nikki Cross, who she was doing that terrible, awful superhero heroine gimmick as Nikki Ash. But she's not been seen since November, and she's done nothing for quite a while as well. And so that's going to be the new version of the Wyatt family. So of all the people I mentioned there,
I don't like it.
No,
nah. What is there to really? It's an homage to Bray. Is what it is.
So how can they be heels then, in that sense?
I don't get. I think they entered into this. Hey, just because WWE is doing good now doesn't mean that they make all the right decisions. This one may backfire in their face.
Bo Dallas will get because Wyndham's brother. The Vintner, Eric Rowan, of course, that makes sense. He was part of the original Wyatt family. I thought, Joe Gacy, maybe not. Nikki Cross, not. But I thought that Dexter Loomis, I actually thought was a good idea because he's got one intense look on that mug of his.
Yeah, when I was with TNA, he sent me some stuff, and looking at him, I just off a picture, I thought this guy might have something because he does have something. I think they can do something with him. And if there's nothing else salvageable out of the new incarnation of the Wyatt family, he may be the one. And he may be the one saving grace out of all of it. And I hope he does it because I kind of like that guy. And I think he's got some shelf life.
We shall move on. And Sheamus did a tweet that was almost immediately deleted, comparing Gunther to Hitler. So here's the thing. An Austrian with a funny haircut has a thing for military-style coats, proclaims superiority over others, hangs out with Germans, and betrays his Italian ally. Quizzical face emoji. And they had to delete that very quickly.
How was that received? Not very well?
Well, I'm wondering, who do you think received it worse, WWE or Gunther?
I think WWE did. Tell you the truth. They received it worse.
Why?
Well, because they're the company allowing it to happen. So I don't think Gunther needs to make any kind of references to the Nazi past at all, because his look explains everything there is to say about it. The best part of him is left unsaid. Don't say nothing. Just let him go. I don't know. I guess he was told to take that down right away. But Gunther didn't put it up. Sheamus put it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think any harm done, but his mere appearance, that's the first thing you think of.
Yeah.
Is Hitler and the Nazis.
He looks like a stormtrooper. He's got the severe facial, facial, very characterful face.
And the long red overcoat type deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
would it, in 2024, could a character like that, sort of playing on it's 80 years ago now, pretty much when the war ended, but do you think these days you could actually make a character like that resonate with the audience these days, or is it just in 2024 that's just never going to fly?
Well, Gunther was flying. Gunther's still getting over. But Gunther didn't say that about himself. Sheamus did.
Yeah.
And he can go out there and look like that. That's deliberate. That's on purpose. And so, a look says everything that you could say in 1,000 words, just a look. So, and they're still using the word Nazi. If people don't like the police, that's the first thing they call them is a Nazi.
No. Eddie Kingston, leg injury. Tell us what you saw. He's out of it.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Have you really? Well,
Yes.
Explain what happened first, and then.
Okay, I got a question first.
Okay.
The rings don't have ropes.
I think
It's a platform, right?
No, that was actually the ring. I just think they took down the ropes for some sort of street fight thing.
It's an awfully big ring.
Hmm.
That's a huge ring. But anyway, it shows Eddie Kingston taking a suplex from the edge of the ring without ropes through a table. But they were so close to the barrier, the metal barrier, that his right thigh, his right, what's that muscle called? The
Calf.
calf muscle. Yeah. Calf muscle hit it very, very hard. And I bet you he could not walk the next day. His probably was all swollen up, hurting too. So he probably had to miss about a week, I think. Because, it had to swell up almost not twice its size, but a lot. And Eddie's not he's a pretty big guy. So he was, and that is based totally on the talent. They knew his leg, if all you have to do is look, that if your leg was going to hit that railing, and he hit it, and he come up selling the leg right away. So, and my leg has hit that railing, it hurts. Big time hurts. Now, sometimes you can have a bruise that's so deep that it's swelling underneath where it should swell. It's almost to the bone. It starts swelling, which is not a good medical condition to be in. So when I did it, they told me a little more, and we may have had to put you in the hospital, because if it gets infected, you know what you're looking at then?
Yeah, no leg.
An amputation. That's what you're looking at. So, but he made a mistake. I bet he remembers it the next time he goes around a ring or a barrier.
AEW must be pretty annoyed that he went to another company and did something so high risk that it ended up taking him out of the upcoming.
Well, it's not really high risk if you measure the distance. They just went too far back, and he could have cleared that, but they were so far back. I don't know if they got out of position or whatever. That's on the guy giving the suplex.
Yeah,
he was too close, and Eddie too, since he was going to be the one taking it. So, but he got hurt. I hope he's well. I hadn't heard any more out of him. Have you?
Yeah, he posted a photo yesterday as we record this. He was in a wheelchair with a full leg brace on. He's already been written out of AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Darby Allin, who's also dealing with a broken foot and still hobbling, is going to replace Eddie at that show. But Eddie looks like he's going to be out for a decent while.
Several months.
We don't know what the nature of the injury is yet, so if he's torn something, then it could be a very long time indeed. If it's just deep bruising, who knows? He might be back in a few weeks. So, how did you do it? How did you land on the guardrail then?
No, he went over and he was just like landing on your back, but his leg...
No, you.
Oh, same way.
Same way, suplex.
Same way. I don't think it was a suplex, it was something else. I forgot what it was, but my leg did hit that. I don't know how I did it now.
How long did it take for you to recover?
Well, back in those days, we didn't have recovery days. You either went to work, you didn't get paid. So I didn't work the next day, maybe 2 days, but the third day I was having to go, and it hurt like hell. And if I'd have had a guy like, what's his name, Drew Gulak, and he had targeted my leg because I was hurt, well, I'd have had to come pull out a little club in the dressing room and say, "Hey, you know my leg's hurt, right? I didn't know that. Well, you know it now. Bam."
Next,
Of course, then he'd really kick the crap out of me.
One-legged man and all that kind of thing. Right, we're going to move on. Cash Wheeler, aggravated assault case drops. Do you remember this story? This was 9 months ago this came out, just before AEW's Wembley pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Daniel Cash Wheeler of FTR waved a gun at a fellow motorist in a rather threatening manner during a road rage incident. He was charged with aggravated assault with a firearm. And then it was just about to go to court about May the 20th, I think, and then all of a sudden they just dropped it. Why would it take this long to decide that they don't have enough evidence?
Well, probably because the DA is so covered up in cases now. Because they got more cases they're throwing out than they're trying. Because people are just acting nuts. And his name is Wheeler, Cash Wheeler.
Yeah.
Very bad idea to pull out a gun on the interstate. Because other people have guns too. And you don't know who you're pulling the gun on or what condition he's in. So I'd highly advise anybody, if you got any idea of doing this just to make a show, you might want to think twice about it. So,
were you surprised that AEW kept booking Cash Wheeler through all of this?
No. It's one of those things you don't know if it's true or not. And they finally dropped it. See, wrestling companies learn that if somebody gets charged with something, if you wait a week or two, it goes away. It goes off the people's minds, and they know it's still there if they think about it. But they may not have been able to wanted to turn him loose right then. I think they was in the middle of this angle, and they didn't want to turn him over in it or replace him with something. So just keep him in there and see what happens.
Yeah,
I would say AEW probably made the right decision.
He was at the Wembley show a few days afterwards, and the fans were chanting to the tune of KC and the Sunshines, "Give it up." Got a gun, Wheeler's got a gun, which I quite liked.
That was good.
Right,
that's good.
This is going to be our last news story, and then we're going to shut down this podcast. And you always we haven't got enough Vince McMahon news. They come out in dribs and drabs. There's nothing like extraordinary happening at the moment. But WWE is now backing Vince McMahon in Janelle Grant's lawsuit. So the new angle to the Janelle Grant lawsuit is that WWE this Wednesday filed a memorandum and is now backing Vince McMahon's assertion that Janelle Grant cannot take Vince or WWE or John Laurinaitis to court because her own lawyer, who looked over the original NDA, insisted on having an arbitration clause. So this is going to be a big sticking point going forward for a while. So here's the quote. Simply put, Grant has no claims actionable in this court because the separation and non-disclosure agreement she signed with McMahon and WWE, the monetary benefits of which she concededly accepted and retained, contains an arbitration provision that unambiguously precludes this court from adjudicating her claims, WWE further said. Now everything hinges on whether the NDA is enforceable in the first place, but that's not all. Vince McMahon filed a memorandum alleging that Janelle Grant's response to published messages from Vince would paint the exchanges in a different light. So you remember these text messages, of course, that were published. It was
so they're not going. So it's not going to be a civil trial. It's going to be arbitration.
That's what WWE and Vince McMahon and Johnny Ace are very much hoping for. But Vince McMahon is also talking about text messages, and here's a quote. Ignoring her being Janelle, obligations to keep the nature of their relationship or the dispute private, the complaint unnecessarily includes private sexual text messages from defendants without including any of plaintiff's responses to those texts. Responses which are equally and often more aggressive and provocative than defendants' communications and show not only that relationship was consensual, but also that in many instances the plaintiff was the initiator. So that's an interesting spin on things, is that there's none of Janelle Grant's
so no
response.
ruling has been made on this.
No, they're still arguing whether this should go to court or arbitration first.
What do you want them to do?
I want them to fight it out in a ring in hopefully Saudi Arabia.
That would be good. That'd be a good drawing point. So I don't know how it's going to end up, but I still think Vince is guilty as hell.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I really do.
Well, that's a good question, actually. If it does go to a civil trial and let's say there is a jury there, these text messages that have been copied and pasted in the Janelle Grant lawsuit, only Vince McMahon's things he's saying, whether Janelle wanted to or not, I can imagine there being back and forth, and something that Janelle has texted Vince, I can see not looking good for Janelle, regardless of anything else that has been
If
alleged.
it goes to a jury trial, which is that's a criminal court, right?
Yeah, criminal, but it can also be civil.
But
The
I think
lawyers
if
can
it
ask
even
for it.
goes to civil, you got to have at least 5.
Yeah.
I think, for them to rule. They may get by with one dissenter, but I don't think she'll win it now. Now that this new clause or this new facet has been added to it, I'm not a legal mind, but
Yeah.
I think Vince. Look, it's not like Vince don't have the money. Give her the money and get out of the way. And I don't know how many more cases that have, none, I guess, that have been opened up against Vince.
Oh, quite a few. Oh, well, never.
More.
Well, there was the one in the suntan place that ended up being settled. There's quite a few that have gone. We don't know how far legally they went, but there's been a lot of NDAs that Vince has signed and then made the company pay for.
Well, the only thing I got to say is, Vince, I need you to do something, because that's when we had our best weeks, right, James?
Mm-hmm.
When we had that Vince to talk about. So, Vince, you need to do something, or we're not going to like you anymore.
So, obviously, if it does go to civil court, which I doubt it will, it'll probably be settled. But Vince says that, one, he doesn't have the text messages anymore because he deleted them, but if it does go to a civil trial, then the jury or the judges or whoever decides this will find the following: that Janelle was in love with Vince and he was the love of her life, that he was her best friend, that she wanted to have sex with him and providing graphic detail, that she fantasized about being held down, enjoyed being in pain, and wanted rough sex, that she wanted defendant to watch her have sex with other people and know about her sex with others, that she wanted defendant to give her thousands of dollars for clothes, plastic surgery, and other gifts, that she wanted to have a future with defendant even after signing the agreement, and that she wanted defendant to keep living in the same building so she can continue to see him even after signing the agreement. So all this kind of stuff could really muddy some waters if indeed there are text messages that substantiate these claims.
How old is Vince? How old is Vince?
78 now, I think.
Okay, the question remains is, can he even still be sexually active?
Hugh Hefner was into his 90s with, the help of certain drugs. Mick Jagger's still pumping out kids.
They say.
Do you think it was Eric Clapton's?
Well, who knows what kind of help they may have had there.
Mm.
Who knows? So, but anyway, a lot of things that Vince may want people to marvel at his virility, that he can still go at it.
He's got to be roided up like anything. I mean, that's got to create some sort of
that hurts you
surge.
too. Yeah, that actually hurts you, I think.
Oh, maybe he's on the TRT.
Because I've heard guys that said that that they were on the juice, they were on the whatever they called it, and it affected their prowess. You like that word?
Hmm.
That meant that their erection didn't come up like it used to.
Hmm.
Wait a minute, this is a wrestling podcast, not damn rated R porn.
Yeah. The Boner Hour with Dutch Mantell.
Yeah. Boner stories by Doug.
I'm going to add one more thing, and then I'm going to shut down this podcast. Vince McMahon also alleges that he stopped the relationship with Janelle Grant because Linda McMahon found out, and she threatened to divorce him. Now, keep in mind, this is 2022. And this surely could not have been the first dalliance, which I know you like that word.
I do like that word.
Beyond. So do you buy that Vince McMahon actually ended this relationship because Linda threatened a divorce?
Shit, no. You don't give a damn what Linda says. But she would have one hell of a payday. She'd have what's he worth? $3 billion, $4 billion?
Yeah, the $3 billion plus.
So she gets all of a sudden, we talked about earlier, some $300 million dropping in his lap, but she'd get more than that. If she got half of it, I mean, she don't got to work now. So I think she would take that money just to, even if it wasn't that much, she would take enough that she would hurt Vince's feelings. Because he lives by money. And that's the only thing on his mind is money, 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 money. So
there's something else with the arbitration thing here, because do you remember, and I'm sure you'll know, the first disputes that arose after this non-disclosure agreement was signed was that Vince McMahon didn't pay the remaining money.
Yes.
So by the letter of his own non-disclosure agreement,
he was the one in violation.
Yeah.
To begin with. And then when they started when did he pull out of that thing? When they started talking about selling the company?
No. So what happened is the NWA, I'm going to keep saying NWA, NDA was signed. Then a month later, an anonymous email was sent to WWE headquarters describing the nature of the relationship. And then he was ousted a couple of months later. So, yeah, there was, and then at some point there was a non-payment being made.
See, your headline when you first started this was that the WWE are now going to defend Vince as a company. Is that what you said?
Yeah, but the WWE were named in the lawsuit, I believe, as well. So I think it makes sense that they would be on against Janelle Grant and siding on with Vince.
I don't know about that.
Anyway, the point I was going to make before is, shouldn't have Vince, when obviously there was a dispute with Janelle Grant, shouldn't have Vince gone to arbitration first before stopping payments by the letter of his own NDA?
Well, he just didn't say anything, did he?
No, he just didn't send the check.
He just didn't get any money. Well, it's hard to say. Like, you expected $1 million in a check in the mail, or however it comes, and it's not there. Hey, did you check the mail today? Yeah. I haven't anything for me? No. You sure? Yeah. Then the next day, no check, no mail, no nothing. After about a week, I guess you got the message, don't you? And do you think she tried to call, or she had an attorney try to call?
That's a good question. I wonder, or maybe did she just go
and
to...
what would be their answer?
Well, they've broken
the
agreement.
This story here, the backstory. I mean, the front story is enough, but the backstory, that's where the details are, and that's what when we get them, folks, we're going to be sending them right along to you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot more to this story that they're not let anybody in on.
Well, when the text messages, apparently, if it ever does go to beyond arbitration, or even if arbitration is seen to be what needs to happen instead of going to court, it would be interesting to see Janelle Grant's text messages, because apparently she has them, and we'll see what she said to Vince, because I would be very interested.
Why would she have them if Vince deleted all of his?
Well, she kept all of them. I mean, she's screen grabbed them and put some of them in her
Yeah,
lawsuit.
but it doesn't matter whether the individual deletes them or not. The company has them. I mean, the phone company has those. Don't they have them?
I can't imagine they keep them indefinitely. That's the thing. I don't think they keep all text messages indefinitely. And apparently they can't get the text messages off Vince McMahon's phone because if they could recover the messages, he would have posted Janelle Grant's responses. So apparently they can't.
I don't think we're getting a straight scoop on that. So anybody out there with any phone knowledge of whatsoever, how long does it take for them to delete tweets? I mean, messages back and forth, private messages back and forth between two parties? Does it take them a year, 2 years, or what?
I don't know.
I think it takes them more than 2 years.
I still think you need the device rather than the phone companies holding all this information. I think it's actually the device you would need. Although you can intercept stuff like that as well. But anyway, we're going to leave it there before we go down this rabbit hole of what phone companies can and can't do and shut down this podcast. So everybody, thank you very much for watching. Of course, I didn't even do the plugs this week. Books and stuff, Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. You know how it goes.
How are we going to sell anything if you don't plug it?
I don't know. I forgot. What
Hey, I need to tell you a story, and I've told you this before, and I don't think I've told the story about my 64 days on the road without going home. I tell you that story.
You've alluded to it.
And 30 days I spent with Sid Vicious and the Sheik. 30 days on the road with those two. Oh my God. So after 30 days, it was all I could take. And I won't tell it now. But interesting story. And it took 2 months before I was able to go back home. 7 days a week and sometimes double headers on Sunday. And guys talk about now working 3 or 4 times a week. It's too much. It's too much. Making 10 times the money.
You did that come to mind because you're writing the 3rd book again, and that's one of the stories you're telling?
Yeah, I'm writing that story.
The only one you've told on this podcast, I think, is when you found Iron Sheik titting up some girl at a bar.
Yeah, that was the start of it.
Yeah,
that's how the whole trip started out.
But it just got better from there.
Oh, it was different every day. I'll say that. That not necessarily made you want to go to work, but you didn't know what was going to happen that day.
Everybody, if you want to hear more of that, write into questionsfordutch@gmail.com. And if someone asks that question, I'll make sure to get it on a future episode of Ask Dutch Anything, which, by the way, is returning this Tuesday. We've been a bit of a stop and start thing with Ask Dutch Anything the last few weeks because we didn't have one after Gail Kim. Because ultimately, I think you and I just all hung up and we just forgot about it.
Hung up or hung over?
Yeah, well.
See? Hey, I wasn't drinking. You were.
I wasn't I?
Yes, you were hammered.
Hey, well,
you were hammered.
It was evening time somewhere. Anyway, that's not the point. I had a very nice time. But the point is that we're back again this Tuesday and every Tuesday going forward. Ask Dutch Anything. Submit your questions via questionsfordutch@gmail.com. And with that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. However you consume this.
Sayonara. Is that the way you say it?
No.
Goodbye. How you say it?
Sayonara.
Sayonara. Okay.
Well, they probably sayonara. They probably say it like that. More angry like. But I don't know what We the People is in Japanese, but Dutch We the People.
We the People. See you Tuesday.